Good morning, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Solon Board of Education on June 5th, 2023. Mr. Buchanan, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mrs. Barksdale.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mrs. Moses.
Here.
Mrs. Glavin.
Here.
Mr. Patton.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is our first opportunity for public comment. In accordance with Board Policy 0169, this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. Anonymous statements are not permitted. No person may address or question board members individually, as the board does not directly address public comment. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation will be permitted at each meeting. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. And as a reminder, the board members do receive and review the agenda and the accompanying explanation during the week prior to the Monday board meeting. Is there anyone that will wish to make a public comment at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move into the treasurer's report. Item A1, approval of minutes. Recommended motion to approve the minutes of the special and regular meetings of May 8th, 2023, and special meeting of May 25th, 2023. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mrs. Glavin, second by Mrs. Barksdale. Does anyone have any questions or changes? Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item A2, approval of bills. Recommended motion to approve the payment of bills totaling $36,046.70 as noted in enclosure A2. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Heckman, second by Mr. Patton.
Yes, Mrs. Moses, for our bills, they are travel and meeting expenses as well as funds dealing with security purchases. And then there's some non-public purchases for our local parochial schools for purchases that they needed.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item A3, recommended motion to approve the following purchase order as a then and now certificate, and that information is below. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Heckman, second by Mr. Patton.
Yes, we have these expenses from time to time. This expense, the vendor had apologized for, as you see, electrical transformers consumption was the purpose for the expense. But due to COVID, their billing got off, their billing was late, and this was a retroactive billing for a purchase order that was already in existence when it was originally supposed to be billed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. That concludes the treasurer's report, and we'll move into the superintendent's report. Item B1, administrative hire. Recommended motion to approve a 2-year contract between Amy Wallach and the Solon Board of Education as preschool director commencing August 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2025, as noted in enclosure B1. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Glavin, seconded by Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes, this is really exciting because this is our first outside hire in quite a number of hires that we've had administratively. We did Mrs. Siegel and Mrs. Root did a very exhaustive search, went through a number of candidates, and they selected Miss Wallach, who's coming to us from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, where she was running all of their preschools. How many preschools did you?
I had 122 last month.
She had 122 preschool classrooms, and she was handling accountability, the dealing with the things like the star ratings that preschools get to make sure that for the step up to quality star ratings to make sure that they were there. She brought them all, I want to say all, up to 5 stars or close to all.
79 5-stars and 4 4-stars.
So it's a spectacular. They did a spectacular job in terms of accountability and getting them up to there. We're really excited to have her, and she's already been hitting the ground running. She actually met with Terry last week to kind of get the lay of the land and meet all the staff ahead of time, just prior to the activities going on, anticipating that we're hoping that you'll say yes to her contract, and we're just really excited to have her.
I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome. We're excited to have you.
Yes, it was we did a meet and greet with the team before they went home for the summer. I really wanted to meet the teachers and the assistants so they knew who I was, so they could anticipate who I was before they came back. It was really nice. It was a nice time.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for? All right, then.
Great.
Mr. Piana.
Mrs. Glavin,
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman,
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes.
Welcome.
Congratulations. We're looking forward to working with you.
Just one small addition too. I know we all want to certainly wish, again, thank Mrs. Brownlow for all the years that she has been in the district, and certainly wish her well in her retirement, because that's kind of an exciting time too.
I would say, and I'd said it before when we were approving her retirement a few meetings back, big shoes to fill. She did an incredible job for us from our very highest level all the way down to our littlest comets. She did a spectacular job for us. I always say, now that you're abandoning us, I don't know if I can talk to you anymore.
No, we will.
She's been a wonderful educator for us, and she's devoted her life to the kids, and you have super huge shoes to fill. No pressure.
Yeah,
Sounds
no
like
problem.
you're up to the job, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she'll do.
It certainly does.
She will do a great job.
Her husband was actually my history teacher. I've known him since high school.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, my
I lived
gosh.
right next to Mr. Brownlow for many years.
Oh.
I don't know if she'd want you to put that information out there.
I told her she went into this business with her staff. She really loves her. They were so sad to see her leave. They truly love her. And she's going to work with me in June and July.
Oh, good. Awesome.
So we already started working together. So
Great.
it's nice.
Terrific.
Well, welcome again. Congratulations. Okay, item B2, Administrative Director and Supervisory Contracts. Recommended motion to approve new contracts for the following individuals and appropriate salary schedules as noted in enclosure B2. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Heckman, seconded by Mrs. Glavin.
Yes, this is the remainder of our administrative contracts. We're on a staggered schedule now. If you recall, we had shifted to 2 and 3 year contracts to stagger our schedules so that all of our administrators weren't being renewed at once. This represents approximately half of our administrative staff, and all of the contracts were included in your enclosures so that you had an opportunity to review them. And we're hoping to be able to get this done so we can continue to move forward.
Questions or anything? I mean,
Good.
yeah, I mean, obviously, keeping the continuity of our administrators is obviously an important part of our success and our directors, so.
A lot of people don't understand that for all of our administrators, it is year-round. The amount of work that they do day in and day out, the work that they're going to be doing all summer long to prepare for the school year to start. Did we forget the motion and the approval?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I'm so
jumped
sorry.
ahead.
Approved.
I'm gonna-
We did the motion.
Yeah, we did the emotion.
Yeah, we did?
Okay.
We haven't actually done the vote yet, but.
Okay.
Mr. McKenna?
Okay. Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin,
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Were you done, Mr. Bolden?
I am.
Oh, I jumped ahead a little bit.
All good.
Ms. Walla, if you're welcome to stay, we would love to have you, but please feel free to leave. I'm sure you have things to
Right.
do. Yeah.
Back to work, huh?
Yeah.
It was lovely to meet all of you.
Okay, it was
This
lovely
summer.
meeting
I
you.
look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving to item B3, out-of-state trip. Recommended motion to approve a trip for the Solon High School Jazz Band and Madrigals to travel to New Orleans, Louisiana for several performances and tours, March 13th to the 17th of 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Heckman, second by Mr. Patton.
Yes, Mrs. Moses, this is a trip that has been gone for a while. This was one of the COVID casualties of a trip that we didn't take. It's a really exciting trip. The kids really love it. It's incredibly educational. The Madrigals, which is our vocal jazz ensemble essentially, and our jazz band, they perform at this event. They get a history of jazz music going through it. It's a fabulous event, and it's really good. It is paid for by the students pay for it, or their parents.
It is a great trip. I was on the last one.
Back before COVID.
Or COVID.
And
Right.
Are they busing there? What's the-
I believe they drive. I believe they're busing down. I want to say that they're busing down.
I flew.
I'll have to double check.
Are there any questions or anything? Ms. Buchanan?
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B4, policies. Recommended motion to approve the following policies as described in enclosure B4, and those are all listed below. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Patton, seconded by Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes, these policies are the policies at our previous meeting that we went over in detail to talk about them. The vast majority of the policies are technical in nature in terms of corrections to align us to state law and policies. We use a service, just as a reminder, we use a service called Neola, who continually reviews state law and district policies and then makes recommendations for us about ways to make adjustments to those to keep our policies in line.
Any questions?
I think it's also important, just one note, important to mention too, that, we do this at one meeting, and then with the intent to, if our population or our citizens in Solon want to make any comments or have any questions, that they can reach out to the administrative team or the board, so that this is something that is required, and that we do this so that everyone has a good understanding of what policies are and what's changing.
Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B5, textbook adoption. Recommended motion to approve the adoption of the recommended grade 5 social studies textbook. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Barksdale, second by Mr. Patton.
Mrs. Moses, I'd like to thank Mrs. Barksdale and Mr. Patton for reviewing it and spending the time to do that. And they have given their approval, and we're bringing it to your approval, the board's approval today.
Thank you. Any comments or anything? All right, Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B6, continuing contract. Recommended motion to award a continuing teacher contract to the following individual, effective for the 2023-24 school year, provided all conditions set forth in the collective bargaining agreement are met. And that person is Charles Chakina. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Glavin, second by Mrs. Barksdale.
This is a, I'm gonna get some explanation, because this is a little odd, because Charles Chicane actually was a teacher for us for many, many years. Retired, did a retire-rehire, and then retired from that retire-rehire. And then he came back at a base salary to come back to do the job again. So he didn't actually come back at his full teaching salary that he left with us. He came back as basically like a new teacher again, but in that same role. He was the best candidate for the job when we had hired him 2 years ago, and he still is doing a great job as a reading recovery teacher for us half-time. State law requires that if you had tenure in the previous place that you were working, and he did, because this was the place that he was working where he did have a continuing contract, and you work for 2 years in that district, you are then you're eligible to be awarded tenure again. And that's the reason why Chuck is getting a continuing contract for this year again. It's a win-win for us, because we're getting a veteran teacher at a new teacher price. So it worked out really well for us, and he's still doing a great job.
He was a good baseball coach, too. Years ago.
Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Glavin,
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item B7, limited contracts. Recommended motion to issue limited teaching contracts to the following individuals for the 2023-24 school year, and those names are all listed below. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Barksdale, seconded by Mr. Heckman.
Yes, these are all teachers who we had non-renewed at the several meetings ago. I want to say in the April meeting, we had non-renewed the majority of these teachers. And these are the teachers, after we've looked at where our staffing was and our levels, we are ready to bring them back at the positions that we had them in previously, or a new position that we have moved them into.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item B8, new hires. Recommended motion to hire the following individuals as teachers for the 2023-24 school year. And those names are all listed below. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Glavin, seconded by Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes, this is our first round of new hires for the year. We're bringing in a bunch of teachers for a variety of jobs, ranging from our elementary levels up to our middle schools. Our high school positions haven't been filled out yet. I think we might have one or two there as well. And then we have a few more elementary positions to round it all out. So we'll probably see a couple more hires in subsequent meetings over the summer. Usually, it seems almost every year we have one hire that we get under the wire because an enrollment change happens or something where we have to add a classroom at the end. But this is our first batch of new teachers. It's to see these young, fresh faces coming in, and they're so full of energy. It's really exciting to see them when they come in to do all their paperwork. They're really excited to be here, and we're happy to have them on board. We're going to work them to death, but they're a great bunch of people.
That's great. Every summer when we have the breakfast and we get to meet all of the new teachers for the school year, it's always exciting because they are excited and full of energy and ready to take on the world and learn the Solon way, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item B9, supplemental contracts. Recommend a motion to approve supplemental contracts to the following individuals for the 2023-24 school year, as noted in enclosure B9. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Barksdale, seconded by Mr. Patton.
Yes, these are for all of our fall sports and activities. We're doing these, we used to do these a little later in the summer. We're doing them earlier because a lot of these coaches start their work midsummer, doing work with the kids and going through it, so we wanted to get them approved now. None of these are new positions. They're all extant positions that we've had before, and we are glad they're coming back to do it. Hard job being coaches and these activities. It's every weekend, every night.
Sure, it certainly is.
A lot of familiar names on that list.
I was just going to say. It's
Yep.
kind of-
Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item B10, non-district pupil activity permits. Recommended motion to approve non-district pupil activity permit contracts to the following individuals for the 2023-24 school year, as noted in enclosure B10. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Heckman, seconded by Mrs. Glavin.
Yes, this is the other group of people that aren't teachers or educators for us. They're people from outside the district, and so they're hired under non-district pupil activity permits. And again, no new jobs in this grouping.
Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item B11, resignations certified. Recommended motion to approve the resignations of Olivia D'Amico, 4th grade teacher at Parkside Elementary School, effective June 2nd, 2023, and Yang Fang Peng, Chinese teacher at Solon Middle School, effective June 2nd, 2023. May I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Patton, seconded by Mrs. Glavin.
Yes, these two teachers are resigning to pursue other opportunities. We wish them the best.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin.
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Item B12, retirement classified. Recommend a motion to approve the retirement of Lisa Booz, kindergarten aide at Parkside Elementary School, effective June 1st, 2023. Lisa has been with the district for 12 years. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Heckman, second by Mrs. Barksdale.
Yes, Mrs. Buse was, I had her daughter when I was a fourth grade teacher, and she was a spectacular parent. I still use her daughter made me a Christmas plate. Her and her daughter made me a Christmas plate for Santa's cookies, that you put out, that we still put out every year. She was a fabulous aide. We're going to miss her, and we wish her the best. She was really good.
Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B13, resignations classified. Recommended motion to approve the resignations of Nicole Lieber, Secretary at Parkside Elementary School, effective June 6, 2023. Jennifer Gallman, Monitor at Orchard Middle School. Nabita Ghosh, Monitor at Parkside Elementary School. Sophia Kamkudis, Food Service at Solon High School. Kenneth Metzger, Monitor at Roxbury Elementary School. And Allison Tomaszek, aide at Orchard Middle School, effective June 2nd, 2023. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Glavin, second by Mr. Patton.
Yes, this group of individuals are all leaving us for a variety of reasons, and again, we wish them all the best.
Thank you. Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B14, declaring transportation to be impractical. Recommended motion that the Board of Education adopt the following resolution. Whereas the students identified have been determined to be residents of this school district and eligible for transportation services, and whereas after a careful evaluation of all available options, it has been determined that it is impractical to provide transportation for these students to their selected schools. And whereas the following factors as identified in Ohio Revised Code 3327.02 have been considered. The time and distance required to provide the transportation. 2, the number of pupils to be transported. 3, the cost of providing transportation in terms of equipment, maintenance, personnel, and administration. 4, whether similar or equivalent service is provided to other pupils eligible for transportation. 5, whether and to what extent the additional service unavoidably disrupts current transportation schedules. 6, whether other reimbursable types of transportation are available. And whereas the option of offering payment in lieu of transportation is provided in Ohio Revised Code. Therefore, be it resolved that the Solon Board of Education hereby approves the declaration that it is impractical to transport the students identified herein and offers the parents, guardians of students named in enclosure B14 payment in lieu of transportation. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Heckman, seconded by Mrs. Glavin.
Yes, this is part of a process that we have to go through as we're evaluating transportation. Any students that reside in Solon that the school that parents have chosen to take them to are within 30 minutes, transportation is something that needs to be provided for them, and that 30 minutes takes place during school, during a time when school is in session to go through it. If parents request it, we can do timings to determine if that is in fact the case. For all the schools that do fall within those, if we can provide transportation in a reasonable way, we do. But there does come times where that can't happen due to a variety of factors, which you had listed in the resolution. If that's the case, we as a district have the opportunity to deem them impractical to transport, and then we are responsible to compensate the parents for that. And next year, the state has raised that compensation number to $596 per student for those instances. So that's where this group of kids that are, as noted in enclosure B14, stand.
And just as a note, for people at home that may have seen these things over the past many years, the past year or two, this list has gotten larger because of the new policies at the state level, correct?
That is correct. Because of the way this state has set it up now, there are more rules and regulations that we have to follow to do that. And we have to put them on each year as opposed to putting them on once and then they go in perpetuity. So while the list seems larger, It's actually not larger. It's roughly the same number. It's just that we're putting them on each year to make sure that that happens. I would also note that the state has also increased the amount of money that we have to pay for this. It used to be several $100s, and then it's slowly been inching up to where it's now close to $600.
So then parents apply personally then for this?
They do. The
service?
parents apply for the impracticality, and then we put them on the agenda and we go through that process
But can that happen again, though, right?
every year.
Well, I mean, next month?
Yes, there might be other kids that go through this.
That's
There's
right,
a
yeah.
So
there's a
they've already been
sequence.
informed that this is this is a responsibility that they.
That is correct.
I just want to make sure everyone understood the process.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Buchanan?
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B15, home instruction tutors. Recommended motion to approve Luann Cola D'Angelo, Anthony Desari, Gail Hopman, and Tanya Perez as home instruction tutors for the remainder of the 2022-23 school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mrs. Barksdale, seconded by Mr. Heckman.
Yes. Whenever we have a special education student that can't attend school for a particular reason, we're going through it, we can provide compensatory instruction for them out for regular classroom instruction, and that happens through home instruction tutors that the board approves for those specific students for that period of time to make up that work. That's what this process is. We have them almost every board meeting because there's always a kid that we have to provide this for, and once they have done that home instruction, they're discharged from that duty.
And is this what we're seeing here for the remainder of the 23 school year, which ended last week? Are these teachers are going to be working over the summer with?
Yeah, they're just filling out the last hours that they need for a particular kid who is out towards the end of the year.
Thank you. Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. Item B16, tuition reimbursements. Recommended motion to approve tuition reimbursements to the following individuals, and those names are all listed below. May I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Glavin, seconded by Mr. Patton.
Mrs. Moses, these were previously approved and they do meet our district criteria.
There's a lot this time.
End of the semester.
Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Glavin?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Moses?
Yes. That includes our business items, moving into information items and other reports to the board. Item C1, building usage. All outside organizations must request a building permit to utilize any district facilities. Enclosure C1 identifies the permits that were approved. Item C2, Solon schools are in top education ranking from Cleveland Magazine. Mr. Fuller?
Yes, this is really exciting. This is, I don't like to minimize these things. It happens, this is, I don't know how many years in a row now. This is our 15th year in a row that we've been ranked the #1 school. I know Debbie doesn't like it because she always used the Tiger Woods analogy where there's always a target on your back when that happens. But this is the culmination of a lot of work. It starts with really great families and great kids. We've got great teachers teaching those kids. We've got an incredible administrative team that works together to get everybody rowing the boat in the same direction so that we can make things like this happen for our kids. And of course, we have incredible leadership that allows us to make this all happen. The Rating the Suburbs uses a lot of performance data, kids on SATs and ACTs, AP class participation. There's a whole, the number of clubs and activities and things that they are doing. We're currently ranked #3 in the Cleveland's best places to live, but for education, we're #1. I had my annual cardiologist visit on Friday, and the dad, who's my cardiologist, his kids go to school here, and he said, this was the only place we could find a house when we moved here, and I knew nothing about Solon, and I'm thrilled that I've come to have my kids here. And the thing that he said that really stuck out to me is that he said, the academics is wonderful, but the supportive environment that you have for my kids. My daughter did wonderfully here as a high school student. My son, who's in middle school, he's really great as a writer, and the opportunities they've had to let him explore that and to do those things, and the various clubs and activities that everybody can participate in. He really talked about the whole package. And you know, everybody talks about our academics, and hey, they're great, and we do a wonderful job with those. But I think when I hear things like that talk about the whole child, those are the things that really make me feel great to be an educator in this district, because we do care about the whole kid, and I think this is a strong reflection of that.
That's congratulations to everyone on staff and everything that happens every day in the school. Quite remarkable to have 15 years of ranking.
It really is.
Yeah. Item C3, Solon Schools seeking community input through communication survey.
Yes. If we'll turn the way back clock to the fall, when we had strategic planning, one of our main drives was in strategic communications, communicating about the things that are going on in the schools, communicating about our financial situation. All of the things that we do all center around how we're communicating to all of our constituents, all of the people in the community to go through that. We've already started to see the fruits of some of that labor. Our monthly Know Your Schools, the last, we call it our mega double-sized issue, because it was 30 plus pages, I think, this time around, Tammy, talking about all the amazing things that were going on. Just things to show the things that teachers are doing in the classrooms every day, things that the PTA is doing with the kids to support them, just getting that kind of communication out. Well, one of those things that we're also working on as part of our strategic plan is identifying the ways that our community wants to hear from us, identifying ways that our teachers like to communicate and parents like to be communicated by them. And one of the ways that we are helping to refine that so that we can get all of our processes put together as part of the strategic plan is to do a communication survey to the whole community. There will be postcards coming out next week. They're next week, Tammy? We'll have postcards that are coming out next week with a QR code that you can put your phone to, and you can fill out a survey about what you think about the communication that we've been doing and things that you'd like to see. That's going to be coming out, and then we're going to take that data along with our communications, our communications team, which is comprised of teachers, administrators, myself, Tammy. We're all going to come together and take that data and use it to help refine our communications policy so that we can better identify the best ways for us to communicate. I said communicate a lot of times in there. But look for that postcard in the mail in the coming
That
week.
will just be going to our district families?
That's going
Everybody.
to the whole community,
That's what
because
I wanted to make sure.
it's important to understand that the school district isn't just for the parents and the kids. The school district is for the community. And as the schools go, so goes the community. And so we want to make sure we're getting that input from all of the people.
Good, which I think it's important that our entire community is involved, and I know that's been given a lot of thought and effort and time. Is the timing on that then, would it impact next school year?
Some of those things might impact next year, for sure. It all depends on the feedback that we get. You know, we're hard at work at revamping our website. We're working on our...
Sorry, I was just going to ask if that included
That includes our website. It includes our app that goes with our website, and those things that are actively being worked on. But again, we're trying to be systemic about it.
Right.
We're really trying to do those things in a way that we have a solid plan going on in the future
Right.
for communications.
Okay. That concludes the information items. We'll move into board reports and committee reports. Mrs. Siegel, do you have anything additional today?
No, thank you.
Mr. Holden?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for another fabulous year. I can't believe I just finished my third year as superintendent. It has been a roller coaster for the last 3 years for sure, but it's just...
Understatement?
Right, but I just wanted to thank everybody for all their hard work. I forgot the phrase, but it goes, the weeks go by slow, but the years go by quick. Debbie and I were just talking last week. She's like, "Can you believe another year is done?" And you can't, because you just get so involved in the day-to-day that you blink and the year is done. And we're already hard at work. We've got meetings.
Spend the whole summer getting ready for next year.
Right. We have meetings all week long, just getting ready, just to kick off the plans for the summer to start for next year. So, thank you to everybody.
Mr. Buchanan?
No, thank you, Mrs. Moses.
Mr. Patton?
Well, thank you to Mr. Bolden and Mr. Pecana and Mrs. Siegel and all of the others for the great work that you do for us. Believe me, we appreciate it. And the graduation went very well. We certainly wish all of those fine young men and women success in the future, both at college or wherever else it might take them. They're the future leaders of our country and our cities and all of that. And we appreciate the fans who come out and support us at the sporting events and the dramas and all those activities. And those of you who came out at 8 o'clock this morning, some special people in the audience today, very much appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Mrs. Glavin?
Just real quickly, I was looking back, because actually someone asked me to send them Ms. Short's comments from graduation, and I really hope that everyone has an opportunity to read those, because it was really an impressive culmination of a very successful class of 2003. And just to make mention that it's just not the high school or the class of 2000. This is a 12-year experience for all these kids, all the students, all the parents. And this year and every year, it wasn't just this year, but every year I am totally amazed at the results and the accolades and the experiences that the kids have had as in their years in Solon High School. And I think that Aaron's commencement address really summed it up perfectly, and it was really an impressive event to see. Thanks to everyone.
In our end of the year postcard that kind of talks about all the accomplishments, Aaron's comments will be included as part of that. So everybody in the community will be able to get a copy.
Good.
She always does such a good
She
job
does,
of summing
absolutely.
things up,
And it's always different.
and provides some inspirational thoughts to the students. Mrs. Barksdale, did you have anything additional today?
I don't. I just want to say I agree with everything that has been said, and happy summer to everybody.
Mr. Heckman?
Absolutely, totally agree. We're good.
Okay. All right, this is the second opportunity for public comment. If anyone has anything they would like to say. Okay. You can step up there. Please provide your name and address. And just as a reminder, everyone who makes a public comment is allotted 3 minutes of time. So it is my responsibility to let you know when your time is up. So I will give you hands up when you have 1 minute left.
Terrific.
Okay.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Jackson. My address is 6282 Morning Glory Circle in Solon. And I am also the State Board of Education member for Solon, as well as 45 other districts across Eastern Cuyahoga County, Western Geauga County, and all of Summit County. And I'm not sure if you have in the past had much of a relationship with your state board member. I don't know if that's irrelevant or just untapped. I'm certainly open to any type of interaction with you folks. You have any questions on what's going on with the state board down in Columbus. I'd also like to congratulate you all on successful commencement. The class of 2023 looks very impressive. It seems like you have a pretty good pipeline into what's going on policy-wise down in Columbus, but I have some insight into education policy at the state level. Just a couple of things I'd like to just put on your radar if it's not already there. I think you can forget about talking about more money coming in from the state to local schools. That seems to be an issue that's just not on the table today. I do think you need to be prepared for the state looking for local capture to begin taking money from the local community. So an experiment with the Cleveland school districts about 25 years ago for a voucher program has now led to about 5 different types of school districts across the state. So we're trying to fund that. Our budget on a biannual basis is about $1 billion that's going to non-public schools. So that needs to be funded somehow, and they're starting to say the quiet things out loud. So I think we need to be prepared for local capture. So the issues that are facing our local community from a infrastructure and an operations standpoint, anything I can do to be helpful in getting things out to the community to help with issues, I'm certainly willing to do that. So I think there are some challenges at the state level. I think the trust level for local school boards is really high. So I do think if you can take care of your own, protect what you're doing, that we can really exploit that local trust and protect and really improve on what we're doing here. That said, in an odd year election, there are members of the board that are up for election, and if anybody here knows me, you know that I'm certainly willing to help good people win seats in Solon. So I would certainly, make myself available if anybody wanted to talk about local races. So just wanted to introduce myself and say hello. Hope to come back, again sometime. And if you have any questions, I'll leave you all with my business cards so you know how to reach me locally and in Columbus. Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking your time to come.
At this time, are there anyone else that would like to make a public comment at this time? Seeing none, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session for the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employees or regulated individuals, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or regulated individual, unless such person requests a public hearing. And before taking the motion, just to note, we will not be taking action during this executive session. So may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Glavin, seconded by Mrs. Barksdale. Mr. Buchanan?
Mrs. Glavin,
Yes.
Mrs. Barksdale,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman,
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mrs. Moses.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time this early on a Monday morning.